Hey, Ryan here, triathlon.com. In this video, we're going to be talking more about IRONMAN Chattanooga. Here we are at the time of this recording, doing it live. We are on August 2nd, 2023, so we are a little bit 2 months out. So if you're looking at doing Chattanooga, looking to pull the trigger at this point in time, you're 2 months away. Hopefully you got some base fitness to be able to pull that trigger and do the race, but if not, we're going to talk about reasons why you should or should not do this race, the highlights, the lowlights, and everything in between. So, again, Ryan from triathlon.com. Been doing Ironman races since 2013, done 12 of them, been coaching since 2012. So, lots of experience. I've done the half out in Chattanooga once, and I've done the full out there 4 different times. 2018, when the swim was canceled as well. So they had excessive rain and canceled the swim, and I've been out there when it's hot and when it's cold, and everything in between. I did it the first year, 2014. I just did it last year in 2022. So my experience spans over 8 years of the event and the evolution of the event and everything that goes on in between. So with that, we're going to dive right into it. You're going to hit the low lights and highlights, everything like that. So we're going to hit this, what they say on Ironman, kind of the big draw is for the event. And what they've got is, I want to hit each one of these little markers, and it could be a highlight or low light, or a reason to do it, a reason not to do it, a con or pro or whatever. So in no particular order, we're just going to go through what the website has. We're going to talk about each one of these. So the swim is in a river, downriver swim. The times I've done it, and I think it's only been wetsuit legal once, and that was in 2022. Now, it's been optional every year, so if you're not worried about AWA, you're not worried about age rewards, you're not worried about placing, Kona, all that kind of good stuff, you can still go do the race, wear a wetsuit, and it's supposed to start in the back. Now, sometimes they slip through and kind of mingle in with the rest of the people, but more often than not, wetsuit optional minimum. Like I said, 2022 was wetsuit legal, and it was the current is usually flowing pretty good. There's been years, I believe 2021, it was a little bit slower than usual, but still I beat my best Ironman swim time by like 15 16 minutes. So I did in 2022 wetsuit legal and a very fast swim. I think I beat my PR by 45 minutes. So I did the swim in like 48 minutes or something like that, which is like unheard of for me in an Ironman swim. So I think the river swim is definitely a big, huge pro to doing this race, especially swimming like strong suit. Maybe this could be your first Ironman or something like that. The river swim definitely will help you out in the long run, because more often than not, you can just float down the river and make the time cut off. I don't think anybody got cut for the swim cutoff in 2022. So if you're going to do the race, bring a wetsuit, you just never know. Now, the bike course it's gotten better over time. It's been pretty much the same course, but every year they've paved more and more and repaved more and more of the course. I believe this year they paved the roads leading outside of town, and those by far were the worst roads, potholes and cracks, all kinds of good stuff. So now, probably since 2014, since this race came into being, they pretty much repaved all the roads. So last year the roads were pretty good once you got outside of town and into the Georgia side of things. All the roads are in great conditions. It even rained a lot of the race last year in 2022, and the roads were in great condition. There were really no problems. You just had to make sure you weren't too slippery to still off the course or anything fun like that. But it is a challenging course, but there's tons of support. The roads are open to traffic, but usually it's not really a problem. Like I said, it says rolling hills, and there's some pretty good climbs mixed in there. But if you're from areas that have rolling hills, like I'm in Kansas City, and you go outside of the suburbs here, and there's some pretty good rolling hills, so it mimics the terrain pretty well. So if you're comfortable with that, and personally I kind of like that too, because on the downhills you can kind of coast a little bit, get a little momentum to go back up the next hill, something like that. It's very nice because you change your positions, change how you're applying power to the bike, and it just gives you variation in that 114 miles. So I would consider the bike course a pro, but there's a little bit of a con because you can get 2 more miles than you typically would. So it's 114 miles compared to 112 for a normal course. So you just got to be aware of that. Just because the way things work out, that's how they get the course, and we're able to make it work. Is the fact that, and I stand corrected, 116 miles. Done it 4 times. You think I would know by now? 116 miles. So you do get to brag a little bit that you did 4 miles in the other Ironman distance event, especially when this was canceled. But 116 miles, so you do get 4 extra miles. So you can consider that maybe a con, but when I've done the race, it's not been my longest. It's actually a pretty fast course, so that 116 miles has gone by faster than some 112 mile bike courses that I've done in the past. So especially with the downriver swim, it's a little bit of a trade-off. You get a little bit of time back in the swim, maybe give it a little bit of time on the bike, but really it's not like you're going out there and you're doing thousands of extra feet of climbing. I mean, if you look at the maps, I'll download that real quick so you can see that in the background as far as the elevation profiles go, as long as it comes through quickly. So you can see that right here, gain of 4,800 feet, especially over 160 miles. That's really not a huge amount. I mean, it's pretty sizable, pretty comparable, but overall it should be pretty doable. So I would consider the bike course a pro. Some people see it as a con for that extra 4 miles, but I think it kind of washes out to being a pro, especially because the surface has been redone completely, basically, for the most part. So you got nice smooth roads, and the problem, well supported, a very challenging course, but not impossible. You run. Now, I'll consider it a pro because you get out there, basically the entire run course there's support everywhere you go, except for maybe the little trails along the river. It's harder for spectators to be in there and that type of thing, but really there's enough people on the course that you're never really alone when you're on the course. It's going to be 2 loops, and it's really well supported. It is tough. That's where some people might consider it a con, is there's quite a few hills on this run course. You will be going up and down Barton Hill a few times, and once you get across the river on the North Shore, that Barton Avenue Road, that's a make or break, especially in that second loop. And then you go through this little neighborhood up here in the north, and there's a pretty good monster climb within this neighborhood, but it's nice homes, it's nice pavement, it's nice trails. The spectators are great. People come out of their homes, camp out on the end of the driveway, and either heckle you or cheer you on. It's always good entertainment out there. But I consider the run course a pro more than a con. It is challenging, but I think there's tons of support out there that makes it more bearable as you're going through. There's plenty of aid stations. If it gets warm, there's plenty of ice. Now, there are a few sections, if it does get warm and sunny, that you're going to be exposed, especially when you're running here on the south side on the Riverfront Parkway. When you come out in transition, and when you come out on the second loop, you're going to be running out on this main road, and there's no tree coverage. There's a little bit once you get to this back straightaway, but if it's warm, you're going to be out in the sun, and you're going to be exposed to the elements. So you got to make sure that you're tolerant of either sun, heat, or humidity, or whatever's coming off at that point. We'll talk more about that. But I would consider the run course a pro. It's a good surface in general, well supported, lots of spectators, lots of access for your spectators and family and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely consider that a pro. Here is where I would kind of put a question mark. Average air temperature is 75 degrees. Depends on the year. It's been over 100 degrees in some years. It's been in the 90s, especially down south. It gets very humid at that time of year, especially in 2018, I believe, when the swim was canceled. It rained a lot, but it was hot, it was humid, and it was sticky. So if you're not ready for that, that could be definitely a con. If heat is not your thing, you're kind of rolling the dice. 2022 was great. It was in the 70s. It was perfect. It was actually kind of chilly at the end. Once you got to past the finish line, you stopped moving. It was actually a little bit chilly, like I said. But I've done it in 2021, I believe, was about 100 degrees out there at the height of race day, especially when you're out there on that main riverfront road. I carried ice in a sock and changed between each aid station. I had enough ice. I made it through. Every aid station had ice. So they would make it through, but I'll classify that as a little miserable. So that might be more of a con, is the weather from year to year can vary drastically, from 70s to 100s. It's rained on us a couple different times. So with that area, you just got to be ready. It's south. It's going to be probably warmer. It's going to be humid. There might be a chance you're going to get into some rain at some point in time on the bike run course or during the swim too. So just be aware of that. The weather could be a little questionable at times. Average water temperature, like I said, I talked about not to swim. It's been wetsuit optional, I think, every year since it's happened. In 2022, it was wetsuit legal. So that was fantastic. Basically, you just surfed down the river, and it was a PR by landslide for me. So there's always the opportunity. And they list the airport here. So I've flown into Nashville and driven down, and it's not a huge problem. From Kansas City to Nashville is a direct flight, so it's one flight. You get there, rent a car, drive down. Had to try by transport, get my bike there, and then rode, did everything, drove back the next day up to the airport. Went pretty smooth, pretty seamless situation to get there, to fly in. I've also driven there from Kansas City. It's like 12, 13 hours, depending on how many stops you take, all that kind of fun stuff. Pretty direct route. I mean, you're pretty much on the highways the entire time. It's not too many side roads or back roads or anything like that. So getting there, depending on the location where you're at in the country, but if you're kind of in the Midwest in a 12 to 13 hour driving radius or within flying distance, it's really, for the most part, it's pretty convenient. I mean, they list Charlotte as the closest airport. Like I said, I flew into Nashville and didn't have a problem. So there's options to fly in and then drive. But they don't have a local large airport for you to fly into, so you're going to have to drive an hour and a half or something like that from the closest airport to get there. So travel could be a little bit of a challenge, but overall I would kind of do that as a push. Not really pro, not really con. It's doable to get there, but you can take a little bit of planning and coordination to make sure that you have your rental car and you have enough time to drive down there, especially if you're going to push to the limit, getting there to check in, all that kind of other stuff. So keep that in mind when you're doing the race as far as pros and cons for the travel side. So other things I'm going to hit, I'll just pull up the run course map, and please excuse my dogs barking in the background. I like this race. It's a one transition area. So basically everything happens here on Ross's Landing in the Chattanooga Green. That's where IRONMAN Village is. That's where the transition is. That's where the bike drop is. That's where everything's at. The only thing you have to go someplace else for is you come down here to transition in the morning of the race, drop your stuff off, check your bike, check your gear bags, drop off your personal needs bags, and they bus you to the swim start. They don't like it when people get dropped off, but you can get dropped off at the swim start, and it's not really a problem if you don't want to wait for the buses. But everything's localized. So in 2022, I stayed at a hotel that was less than a mile walk down away from the Ross's Landing area. Didn't have to move my car all week. Everything was where I needed. They have restaurants there. They had little markets. I could get food and groceries and stuff there. IRONMAN Village is there. The transition's there. Everything's there. Entertainment's there. Restaurants are there. Once you get there, you just park and you don't have to move your car. And there's plenty of areas. It's not one of these races where any of the transitions are kind of out in the boonies. I know there's some 2 transition races, a little bit difficult. It's not a reservoir where you have to go and pay to park or something like that. There's plenty of parking down there, so if you do stay out of town, there's plenty of parking downtown. It's very accessible, very easy to get to, lots of good entertainment and that type of thing for the family and all that kind of good stuff. So definitely a pro as far as the venue goes. It's very accessible, very easy to get around, very convenient for everything you have to do out there. Other than that, I mean, you look at the course. Like I said, I've gone through the courses, I've gone through the swim, bike, and run. Supporters, it's a great venue. Like I said, Barton Avenue has a sidewalk. There's people that rent the houses along the run course. There's this little run area through these nice little neighborhoods and golf areas. People come out, they're very supportive. The locals are great. Even coming out here in the North Shore, when you're running over here, everybody's out at the restaurants. They're sitting out on the patios, looking up your bib numbers and heckling you as you run along, all in good fun. And you come around the bridges, very scenic. The bike is very scenic. The run is very scenic. The bike is nice because a lot of it has trees on it, so if it is windy, you don't really notice the wind as much because it's not as open necessarily as other courses would be. So keep that in mind as well. So if wind is not your friend, then this bike course may be the one for you. Now there are going to be places where you're exposed and you have a little bit of wind, so don't get me wrong. But as far as the rideability goes, it's great. As far as spectators go, there's Chickamauga out for the personal needs stop area that a lot of people come out. I think they've been busing people out, Ironman has, so they'll have that set up so you can catch a bus, catch your rider there when they stop for personal needs and say, hey, good job, whatever. They can ride out. It's a big deal out there. They make a big deal about it in the whole town, so that's kind of cool too. But when you get to the course, there are tons of places for spectators. They can hang out and transition and basically stay there all day. There's movie theaters, there's stuff for the kids, there's stuff for adults, there's restaurants, there's bars, there's You know, if it's just a bunch of adults watching you out there, they can have a very nice time, either North Shore or South Shore, while you're out there on the bike course for 6, 7, 8 hours. You're out there on the run course for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever. They can be plenty entertained. They can just hang out, transition all day. They can hang out in different areas along the run course. It is accessible. It's open to traffic. They do try to shut down, I believe, one lane on the side that we're running on. So traffic's a little bit slower, but people can go out there. They can go out here in the North Shore and support you. It's very spectator friendly. So definitely overall, I want to close up this video by saying this course is very doable, very friendly for spectators, very friendly for families, very friendly for athletes. The support is great in the venue, in the area, and Ironman has been going strong for several years now. Usually reaches capacity or close to capacity every year, so there's plenty of athletes there, plenty of like-minded people. So I definitely, like I said, I've done this race 4 times, and it's always been a possibility on my calendar, because if I needed to do an Ironman, if I wanted to do the legacy program or something like that, IRONMAN Chattanooga is usually on my calendar, because it's great swim, great bike, great run, great atmosphere. It is challenging, but overall it's a very nice course. You roll into town, they appreciate you being there, do the race, head home feeling accomplished. Definitely, I would recommend this race as far as the pros and the cons go. So if you got any questions in Facebook, put them on the comments. I'll get back to you like that. On YouTube, if you watch this later, put some in the comments, hit like, subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. Get future notifications about this races or other future events or future just tips in general about triathlon that I post. So with that, I'm going to close up this video, and we will see you out in the next video. Happy racing out there, and good luck.